I have a new microphone, so let me know if you can hear me okay. Hopefully it's all okay, but I can turn it up if not. I've got the chat in front of me, but there might be a bit of a delay. Hi Jennifer, good morning. And from Quebec, so glad you made it. 7 in the morning, wow, that's early. I've never tried painting that early in the morning. I'm just gonna pop in the chat. How is the audio? Like I said, this is a new microphone, but I'm hoping it's all okay. Oh, hi Minka, I'm glad you could make it. Good morning, we hear you great. Oh, perfect, I'm really glad. It's always really hard to pick a time that works for everybody. So hopefully it's okay, trying to get evening and morning from either side of the world. Hi Melanie, good evening from Asia. Thank you so much for coming. Hello to those who are here live, and hello if you're watching on a replay as well. Hi Christiane. Oh, it's lovely to see some familiar faces. Yes, so this is basically a live stream to celebrate reaching 60,000 on Instagram, which is an absolutely wild number and blows my mind a little bit. But I'm really glad to have such a wonderful community, and my YouTube is growing as well, so we recently hit 8,000 there. I'm here on this platform, so I really wanted to say thank you, and I know you all enjoy painting live streams, so I thought we could do this together. You're welcome to paint along with me, or if you want to just chat and you can ask me questions, and we'll just chat along together, and then you can always paint along on the replay after you've seen what I create. Totally up to you. Good morning Kana, 7 AM in Florida. Hi Thoraya. Esther, hi Katie dialing in from Australia. Hi Sarah, hi Siobhan. Morning Katie, hope you're well. Audio is hard to hear. Okay, let me see if I can turn it up. Okay. I'm also going to move the microphone, so you might see it a little bit over here, just so it's a little bit closer. Hi Marique, hopefully I'm saying that right. Brand new to this channel, really enjoy the uploaded videos about art, materials, etc. Now you're curious. Much better. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Siobhan. Thank you for coming, especially as you're new. I hope you enjoy it. I don't do lives very often here on YouTube. It's usually when we hit a milestone, but I do them monthly on Patreon. But today we are painting 2 references, so let me get that up on screen. Sarah, it's from the Czech Republic and having lunch right now. Perfect. This is also my lunchtime too. I've got my tea, but it usually goes cold when I'm live streaming. Okay, so here we go. This is our first reference. So this is a lovely little lighthouse scene. I thought it had a really nice atmosphere. This is one of the ones that you picked on Instagram, so I put it to a vote, and this one was by far the winner. Now I've put a 30-minute timer for both of the references we're doing today. You're welcome to spend longer on it depending on how fast you want to work. This is actually quite a long timer for me. I prefer doing quicker ones, but I want to make sure it's comfortable and I don't want to rush things too much, so I feel like 30 minutes is going to be a good amount of time. Hi Anna from Germany. So over here you can see I've got my gouache. Off camera I've got my big tin of gouache, but for now I'm starting with these colours. If you have any questions at all throughout the stream, just pop it in the chat and I'm happy to answer any questions you've got. I'm going with gouache today. Hopefully it will dry in time, and then I'm going to put on some like textures with coloured pencils, some near colours, and possibly some pan pastel. We'll see how we go. Oh, hi TJ, morning. Congrats on 60k, thank you. Just getting kids ready for school now and enjoying watching. Oh, thanks for being here. I know it's early over there. So, without further ado, I think we should start our timer. You can see I've got my boxes drawn out, so I'm doing 2 panels today, just on one spread. So let me get my timer up. So here we go. Like I said, don't panic if we don't finish in time. It's totally okay to go past the timer. I won't hold you to it, that's totally fine. But our 30 minutes is going now, and I'll try and remember to check and let you know when we're like halfway. But for now, I'm just going to start putting down my base layer of gouache. So you can sketch first. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I don't do that. But I do always start with my sky. So I'm going to mix up a really light blue. And I tend to water my gouache down a little bit. Sometimes I'll use it more thick. But I find it creates a really nice texture. And what I'm going to try and do here is create like a gradient going down. Oh hey, Sketches and Scrubs, I'm glad you could make it. So yeah, I'm just going to roughly put down my sky. There's quite a lot of like colour and shades, so I'm going to start with the blue and fade it down, and then instead of the yellow that they've got on the horizon in the reference, I think I'm going to fade mine to pink. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's wild to me that it's still going up. I keep expecting it to stop. So I'm also going to roughly work out where this lighthouse is going to be in my panel, and I'm going to leave the paper as the white of the lighthouse. Hi Shilpi, first time attending your live stream. What sketchbook do I use for gouache, and how do we avoid colours rubbing off on adjacent pages in a closed sketchbook? So I generally use this one, which is the Royal Talons Art Creation Sketchbook. I have it in all the sizes, but this one is 13 by 21, and you might be able to see here actually, to stop things from rubbing, I just put in scrap bits of paper, and that just rubs it onto here, so you can see there's some marks there instead of onto the art. So I just have a few in my sketchbook that I move through, so not all the pages are filled, but I find that whilst I'm working in it, it's helpful for it to sort of protect the art a little bit more. And this sketchbook isn't like recommended all the time for wet media, but I find for gouache, especially if you're using it the way that I do and not watering it down like with watercolour, I find that this is a really nice mixed media sketchbook, so I hope that helps. These sketchbooks are really affordable, so I find that there's never any like pressure in here for me. I don't have to be worried that I need to make perfect art, because sometimes like I have an Etcher sketchbook, and that is quite an expensive sketchbook, and I feel the fear when I'm creating in that one. Okay, so I'm going to start putting in my pink because I want this to fade down. This is just the portrait pink that I'm using here, so a nice soft pink that I bought recently, last week, which will be in this week's YouTube video as well. So on Sunday I'm sharing a video about my mini art haul. So I've gone quite pale there, and I'm going to just go darker as we go down. And you can see here, this is the space that I'm leaving. It's kind of hard on this camera, but hopefully when I add more contrast it will show a bit more. But I'm leaving that for my lighthouse. And then I'll add the shading on after. Oh, no problem at all. Okay. So let me know if you're painting along with me, or are you just sitting and watching, probably having breakfast or lunch, judging by your time zones, or maybe even dinner. But if you are painting along, I'd love to know what you're using. Hi Anir. Okay, so I think that's it. This is going to be where my horizon is, so that's why I've put this really defined straight line here. And I think I can always come back in and sort of bring the colour up a little bit with coloured pencils, but for now I think that's okay for my base colours. I think ideally I'd make the pink higher, so I might come back in later when this is dried just to add in some more texture to the sky. So next up, there are some like hills in the very distance, so I'm going to mix up. I'll probably put another colour on my palette. So this is the warm grey, this is Dale Rowney. Christian is using Neocolor 2 pencils and water. Oh nice! I have started not using my Neocolor 2 very often. I tend to use it for the finishing touches, but I miss using it for like creating full art with it, so that's something I would like to do more of. And here is going to ink a drawing while watching my live stream. Oh, fun! What are you inking? So I've just mixed up this grey with a bit of the pink. I just want to pop that in there on this horizon line. And then I'm going to mix up the watercolour, like here. Sketches and scrubs, setting up your desk, and you'll paint florals while watching along. Oh, you are very good with your florals, I understand that one. So I'm just mixing up a kind of a darker blue. There's a little jutty out bit here of the lighthouse. And I'm basically just putting down the block colours at this point. I'm not too worried about like lighting or shadows because I'll add that on later, as I will with like all of the details. So at this point of the painting, I'm just putting down the block shape of like the things I can see and putting down the colours of it. Anna is watching because your baby doesn't want to sleep. Oh, Anna, I'm sorry to hear. Hopefully this live stream will send your baby into a very deep peaceful sleep for you. Okay, so now onto the like the flowers and the grass. Now I would say you can either do this two ways. You can either work around the flowers and leave space, or you can then like do a green background and then work on top with like a white gouache. So I think I'm going to do a bit of both. I'm going to leave the white of the paper for the flowers in the foreground, so kind of like working negative space, and then for some of the other ones I might come in with white gouache later just to add that on top. Anir is inking an illustration that is on the sketch phase since a long time. Really excited. Oh, that's fun to be moving it onto that phase. Hi Julie, just passing by. We'll have to catch up later, but congrats on the milestone. Oh, thank you so much Julie, I hope you enjoy catching up later. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is mix up my green. And I've got two greens here, so I've got chromium oxide green, linden green, and then cadmium yellow hue. Those are, well, the linden green's quite new for me, but the chromium oxide and the yellow is like my go-to colour. And if you want to warm it up, because in the reference it is quite a warm green, then you can either add in some ochre, or I'm going to try adding in this raw sienna. Sorry for your English, by the way, you're French. Oh, no problem at all, your English is absolutely great. And let me do a time check so we can see where we're at. We've got 21.5 minutes left, so that's plenty of time. Generally, what I usually do with like my paint layer and my details layer is I'll tend to go half and half. So if it's 30 minutes, I'll try and do 15 minutes on the paint layer and then 15 on the details, but it does depend how quickly it will dry. I'm hoping that we'll have plenty of time today for it to dry and I can start putting on all my textures. So I'm just going to start at the top and work downwards. So I'm not mixing a load of one colour. I really like it when you can see a lot of different shades in it, so like it creates a lot of texture for my work. So I'm not trying to do one solid colour here on the grass. I'm mixing in some yellow and then I'm adding that in, mixing in some more green, so like it just adds more texture to it rather than doing a really flat colour. And when I first started with gouache, I thought a lot of the ones I was seeing was very flat colours, and I really struggled with that, and so I kind of just started doing it in this way and it worked great for me, so I've done it ever since. But I was seeing a lot of very neat artwork and I prefer using it in this sort of textured way, so for me it works great with the style that I want. So you can see there I've kind of gone around a flower shape it doesn't have to be perfect, because I can come in with my pencils and neaten it up later, but it's helpful for me to pop that in now, because sometimes I'll do it and then I'll forget to come add it in, and I do want to have these here. And then as we come forward, I'm going to put in some more of these shapes. But like I say, it doesn't have to be super neat. Generally I'll just do blobs for flowers and that works out okay too. How long is the stream? The irony of the fact I'm the one asking, despite the fact you never know how long your streams will last, is not lost on me. I'm thinking it will be another hour or so. So we've got 2 references which are 30 minutes each, and then I rambled a bit at the start and I'll ramble a bit at the end. So yeah, we've got 18 or almost 19 minutes left on this one, and then another 31. So I'd say we've got about another hour left. So because there's quite a lot of green on this, that's why I'm really focusing on trying to add in more texture, because I don't want it to be like just one solid green block. To me that would make kind of a boring picture, which is why I'm trying to add in all these different shades of green and just add in lots of texture. I don't have to capture all of these daisies because I can add in some white gouache on top afterwards, but I do want to try and get the main ones. And as we go further away from the camera, I can be a little bit looser. I don't have to put in all of their petals because they're not as distinct. I really like the green that it makes when I added in that raw sienna, so I'm probably going to put some more of that on my palette. And a lot of these flowers have lost their petals, so I'm kind of just adding them in. I tend to use references as like a starting point, and then I can adjust it to how I want them to be. So don't feel like too precious with the reference or too like precise, because you can change it up depending on what you'd like it to be. I think that's the best way to do it. So I'm going to add some more raw sienna onto my palette. And it says, your art has inspired me to do more texture in my drawing with pencils and pastels, and I love it, thanks. Oh, that's really lovely to hear. Oh, thank you. I'm really glad that you're enjoying it as well. Texture is one of those things I'm always trying to get. So I'm constantly trying to experiment and use different materials just to try and add more into my work, because I think it really brings things to life. So again, I'm just sort of mixing up lots of different greens. I'll come in over this with a darker green, so this is kind of like my mid-tone. I want to add in lots of pencil marks here for like the stalks and the leaves and the blades of grass. But at this point I'm just putting in my mid-tone. I always use a round brush as well, so this is a size 10. Because I do find that where it tapers off, I can be quite precise with it, but I can also fill in lots of space. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds for me. I very, very rarely use small, fine brushes. You'll mostly find me using these big round ones. If I want to put in details, then I'll use pencils rather than gouache. I used to use gouache for like the whole painting and use it with a small brush and then add on a final layer for like my darks and my details with gouache, but nowadays I much prefer using pencils. I've got a lot of control and a lot more shade range, so like for me that's what my mixed media like go-to is. It's like a base layer and then colored pencils always on the top. So again, I'm just putting in some more space for the daisies back here. I think you can see here where I've got the different colours coming in. And I really like that effect. I think it adds so much texture to the piece. And at this point I'm not looking at the reference, I'm kind of just going around where I've left the space for the daisies. And I can use a really nice orangey yellow for the middle of the flowers. So I'm going to add in some more down here. I've done this one a little bit higher than where it is on the reference, so I'm just going to add some more in just to fill my page and to fill the space I've got down here. It's been a while, I think, since I've done a floral piece, or, I mean, this is mostly landscape, but I haven't painted flowers in ages. Okay, as a time check, we've got 13.5 minutes. So I feel like that's good, and I can see that some of my gouache is starting to dry. Where I've put it on a bit more thickly, obviously it's not dried yet, but we're getting there, so I don't think it will be an issue to put on my details layer, so that's good. There are some little gaps where I haven't completely covered the paper. Again, that's okay, especially when I'm working really fast, so if I'm doing like a 10-minute timer, I think it just adds to the effect. But you can always cover it up later with like your pencils. Okay, almost there. I just think that this grass area is a lot more interesting when I've added in all of these different shades of green, because that's what there is in the picture. There's a lot of different colours there, and this is my way of trying to capture that. Okay, so there's my base colours down. You can see where I've put down that outline of the flower. So I'm just going to go around it just to blend that in a little bit more. And then I'm going to try and stop there so that I give enough chance for this layer to dry. You can also see I've got two jugs of water, 2 pots of water. So this one I'm trying to keep clean. Sometimes I'll do like my sky in one water pot and wash my brush in that, and then for like the muddier colours like my greens, I'll wash it in this one. But because I've already dirtied that and I think I'm done with the sky, I'm going to keep that one for our second reference, and it's just handy to have a clean one because it is quite noticeable when you are using dirty water with some of your subjects. So I'm going to try and keep that one for my next reference. So just trying to work out what to do next. I might add in the yellow or the yellow-orange of these flowers, so I think I'll use this permanent yellow deep. Just going to pop a little bit on my palette. You can use coloured pencils or even near colours for this bit if you're following along with my method, but this is a really nice warm yellow, so I'm going to just use that whilst I'm still like in the painting phase. So I'm going to use a different brush. Yellows is definitely one of these where you can tell when you are using dirty water. So I might dip into the clean water for this bit. Hello! Hello from Houston, Texas. Love what you do. You slept through your alarm. So glad you caught the live stream before you leave for work. Thank you. I've learned a lot about mixed media from you. Oh, thank you. That's so nice to hear. And I'm glad that you caught us as well. And if you have to rush off for work, then hopefully you'll enjoy the replay as well. So I'm just adding in the middle of my flowers, which I think they're going to look like fried eggs for a little bit. So we'll fix that later. We'll just have some little fried egg flowers for now. And I don't have to be super neat with this, but just little yellow dots, especially back here in the background where they'd be really small. Probably done them a little bit big, but it's kind of just a suggestion that this is a field of flowers and there's a lot back there. So I think I'll leave it there for now. There we go. I think that just the suggestion of that works quite nicely. So what I want to do is I will add on some shading, but I'm going to use a brush pen. So I'm just going to use the 728 Ecoline. This is just a really nice light grey, and I am a mixed media artist, so I'll just use whatever I have. And for me this is the right shade for the shadow, so I'm just going to use it in the brush pen rather than mixing it up with my gouache. So I'm just going to add that on there. And then that will really transform it into a lighthouse when I add on my pencil layer. Okay, we've got, oh, okay, suddenly we only have 8 minutes left. So we're over the halfway mark that I said I would tell you at, and also where I come in with my details, so let's start that now. Hi Nelson, hello from Malaysia, love all my work, thank you so much. I'm glad that you could catch a live. We have 8 minutes left on this reference, so I'm just going to start coming in and adding some texture here. I wanted to add in more pink back here to the sky, and I kind of, if I want to be a bit softer with the pencil marks, I'll use it on its side like this, just to create a bit more texture as well. And I tend to use it like this to build up texture, and then when I'm doing my line work I'll be a lot more heavy-handed with it. And I'm just using Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils today. So I'm just neatening up the sky because this area is dry, so I'm still waiting a little bit for this some of the green to dry, so that's why I'm working at the top and just darkening up the sky. The blue, my camera doesn't capture blue very well, so it's looking quite neon. It's a bit of a warmer blue than it's actually showing on camera. So I will upload a photo on my Instagram with the correct colours because my webcam really struggles with this blue, but hopefully you can see there where it's like adding a lot of texture. And then the lighthouse, because I used a brush pen, is dry, so I'm going to start adding on the details here, and then hopefully this area will be dry and we'll neaten that up, because suddenly it feels like we're running out of time on this one. So we've got, yes, 6 minutes left, so I need to kind of get a move on here. This is the bit that I love though. I love adding on these details, and this is really what brings it to life. So we'll add on the little windows. And then this is where I pressed a little bit more, a little bit harder, just to be a little bit, to give more contrast. And it gives a bit more confidence in my line work. Okay, so let's neaten up the shape of this one a bit. Okay, we've gone really pink here, so that's cool. sometimes I'll do it and then I'll be a little bit more heavy-handed, and then that kind of affects how the rest of it looks. So I'm just going to darken up some of this. I think I like to just be told what to do by the painting I'm doing. I never go in with a plan. I kind of just roll with what happens, and I find that works quite well. And I learn a lot that way as well, because if I do make a mistake, then I kind of just have to roll with it, and I learn a lot from that. So there is our sky done. That's gone very pink compared to the reference, but I wanted to go pink instead of yellow. Could just keep adding and adding, but I'm going to move on to down here. So sometimes I use a dark indigo for my dark green, just because it's a really nice dark shade that works with most things, but I've also got a dark Thalocyanine green, which is 719, which is also a really nice green. So I'm just going to start adding on lots and lots of lines, just to create lots of texture here down below. And in the foreground, so I'll use the dark indigo for when I want to be, like, have a really strong line. And then I'll use the green because sometimes it's not quite as dark as I want it. And we're just going to add on a lot more texture here. I've got quite a few different greens I can use, and again, like, add on more texture and just really bring a lot of, like, mark making to this flower field in front of this lighthouse. So this is where I go a little bit scribbly, which is very fun to do. I love just adding on scribbles and things. Time-wise, we've got 2.5 minutes left, which always, I know it's always like, I don't have long, but actually it's surprising how much you can do in that time, so don't panic. And also, if you need a lot longer, then that's totally fine. You're welcome to spend longer than I am on this. I have linked both of the references down below in the description box, so if you'd like to see it bigger, I'm sorry, I should have said that at the start, but if you haven't finished and would like to, then that is linked in the description box. So I've realised I need to do the grass a lot smaller back here because obviously it's further away, so I'm going to do smaller marks for this. Oh, thank you, Sketches and Scrubs. I feel like this pencil layer, and as always with the details, it just adds on a lot more. It just has changed the piece already. It already feels more finished. Just in like the 2 minutes or so that I've started adding this on. I really like how that's looking, so that's good. We've got 1.5 minutes left, so what I'm going to do with my last 1.5 minutes is grab some Neocolors, and I like using this for like adding on extra lines. So I'm just sort of using this lemon yellow. I like using this for highlights. I really like using the pink, so I can add that to my sky. These are water soluble, but I tend to not use them like that. And one of my favourite things to do is come in with like a pop of colour. And I just add this throughout, like where I think it would look good. I haven't added any texture on. That was probably a mistake putting it there, but that's okay. We'll just roll with it. I do want to add on some texture on the sea. Ken says, really brings it to life. J Rose, Jennifer says, you introduced me to the mixed media. I don't think I'll ever not want to use mixed media. Yeah, that's what I found. Like, now I've used it, I can't not. I find it really, really hard to stick to one medium because I'm always like, ooh, I could add this on, or I could add this on. So I feel like once you go mixed media, you're not going back. Okay. There's our timer. I don't know if you all heard that, but let me just finish this off. Okay. Hi Evie Diva Doodles. You have become so much more confident with mixed media and drawing, painting in general since finding me and joining my Patreon. Oh, thank you so much. That is so lovely to hear. Like, that's what I always hope for, is to like give confidence and just encourage people to create. So thank you so much. Eldolin says, I either don't add enough details or add too much. How do I know when to stop? I'm working on it, on my issue, going on 40 years now. So timers always help because you kind of have to stop at the end of it. So I found, to stop myself from overworking, that's why I like to do quick timers, because it kind of forces me to stop. And then that's helped me for like longer ones as well, just to try and find the balance. But it is tricky, so sometimes it's helpful to just keep taking breaks, to step back, and like if you feel like it communicates what you want, then stop. So like I would say stop earlier when you've done less, and then see if you feel like it communicates what you want it to, and then you'll know you don't need to add more. But I think having those quick, like, okay, let's stop and see what I'm doing, really helps you to like not overwork things, because you're constantly reevaluating it. But it is like one of those things that I feel like all artists struggle with, so you're definitely not alone. Cheryl says, love watching this live, new to painting and have wondered about mixed media. Oh, perfect. Yeah, definitely in the right place, because mixed media is like my favorite thing. So that was our first reference. So let me show you our next one, which is a little bit different. This one is this lovely little bird. I think it's a house sparrow. So I'm going to do that over here. And again, we're going to do the same sort of method with putting down our base colours with gouache first, and then we'll add on top of it and create a lot of texture. So we're doing 30 minutes again with this one. Great advice, I'll try a timer. Yeah, timers massively changed my like process and the way that I work. And I was always one of like those people who thought I could never find time to create, because I thought I needed more of it. And so just setting like 10-minute timers meant I could create daily without it feeling like a huge thing, and just doing that meant that I could work quicker. Now I'm so used to working quickly, and I feel like I don't overwork as much. So hopefully you'll find the same. There is our 30-minute timer. So birds. So this one is, I love drawing birds, but I tend to sketch them first just to try and get their body right, because they can be a little bit tricky. So animals are generally the one thing that I will sketch first, unless it's fish, in which case I feel like their bodies are a lot more forgiving and I can make it look however. But for proportions with birds and animals, I find it a lot easier to sketch. So I really want the bird to be bigger on my page. I want it to be like bigger than it is in the reference. I'm not interested in the post as much. I do want him to obviously sit on it, so that he's not just floating. But for me, I want it to be, I think I've gone too small. This is where it is helpful for me to sketch first, because if I've done it with paint, it's a little bit harder. But it does mean I have to problem solve a bit more. But with half an hour for this one, I feel like that's plenty of time. And that's the other thing with timers, is it does force you to problem solve very quickly, so you don't have much time, and actually your brain takes over. So although it feels like you don't have long, it's really surprising how much you can get done, and how much your brain sort of takes over for you. And like, it gave me a lot more confidence in like my paintings and my abilities when I was doing timers, because my brain just took over, and it's like, oh wow, it kind of does know what it's doing, and without all of my extra overthinking and worrying that I generally do and default to. Kind of says, in love with my pops of blue. So curious about how you decide where to use it, trying to guess where it might be in this one. Yeah, that it is really tricky. So I kind of just go over some of the lines that I already have. Generally I will do one on the horizon, and then I've done it here. Where I did it here, I realised that was wrong, and I think that's because the shadow is on this side. I think if I'd done it on this side of the lighthouse, it would have worked better, but I tried to cover that. So it kind of is a lot of trial and error. I find that doing more in the foreground helps for me, so like just mimicking some of the strokes that you've already put down, that's also really helpful for when I'm adding on my pops of blue. But yeah, it is tricky, and it's one of those things that I kind of have to work out when I'm doing it, and then I might have done it wrong, and then I'll try and cover it up. So sometimes I'll have put it in the wrong place, but I've covered it up so it doesn't look like I've done it wrong, if that makes sense. So I would just try it around, and it needs less than you think. So do a few and then again step back and see how it looks, because it's really easy to go a little bit overboard with adding on those final pops. Okay, I know it's very hard to see, but there's my sketch of the bird. That's just helpful for me to see where I'm going to put down my base layers, and then here I'll have some of that green coming in, and I'll probably put some down here just to balance it out. Okay, so I'm going to mix. I need some more colours on my palette, so I'm going to put down this Naples yellow, which I saw TJ from Sketch It Studio was using, so this is a must-have in her palette, so I'm just copying TJ. But it's a colour I hadn't used before, so that's been fun to try in my palette. I've also got a yellow ochre, so I'm just going to get some nice neutrals and like orangey browns. I'll put down a dark brown as well. Gotcha, thanks, a little goes a long way. I'll try giving it a go. Yeah, I do find that you don't need much of it, but it really finishes things off nicely, and I struggle not to add it now. TJ says, love that yellow has a beautiful glow. Yeah, really nice. Not like any other colour that I've used. I know that I'm definitely going to use it a lot, so thank you for the recommendation, TJ. Okay, so far I've got the Naples yellow, the yellow ochre, and then the burnt umber. I think that might be okay for my browns for now. I'm going to start with the lightest. I'm going to add in a bit of the white as well. So I'll go light to dark on this one. And I'm just going to build it up slowly. And again, you'll see that I'm going to use a similar method as I did for the grass here, where I'm like doing lots of little strokes just to try and build up that texture, because there's a lot of obviously texture on the bird, and I want to try and mimic that. I think a bit of pink will work nicely as well. So I'm using lots of different little strokes just to try and build that fluffiness. Eva says, haha, I have the Naples yellow in your basket after seeing it on TJ's Patreon palette video. That's exactly when I put it in my basket. And I got it last week in the Black Friday sales, so that's part of my haul that's coming on Sunday to this channel. I can definitely tell it's a staple for my palette now. Really nice colour. So I'm just going to build this up. There's quite a lot of pattern on the bird's wings, and it's a lot brighter in our reference than it is in real life, but I tend to always oversaturate things anyway, so like you'll notice in a lot of my landscapes I'll make things brighter. I've accidentally done it on the actual reference that's on screen, compared to how it is in real life, which is a lot more of muted browns. But I always tend to make things brighter as it is. With a lot of my nature work, I tend to go for really bright greens. I like the way that it looks, and I like things to be nice and bright and colourful. So we're going to do the same on this bird. So again, I'm going all the way around with sort of lots of little smooth strokes. If I do put something out of place, then I can always go over it. So like when I put in the background colour, I can neaten up the edges of the bird then. I think some of that warm grey would help as well. This one's got really, this one was one I bought second hand, so it's quite old in the tube, and very hard to get out. You can see where I've used my tube squeezer, which was really helpful for getting out some of that paint. So I'm just going to continually mix again. Instead of green for this one, I'm going to mix brown shades and just build up our bird like that. So for the wings, I'm going to put down my like a base colour, and then I'll come in on top with my pencils just to create some of those lines. So I'm not actually going to do that with my paint layer. I feel more confident and like I'll have more control when I come in with my pencils. So I'm just going to do the lightest colour there, which is this sort of like orangey brown, and I'm going to ignore the darker stripes because I'll do that with my pencils, just because I'll have more control. And I'll just put down this base colour first. Again, kind of mixing up the shades so it's not one flat colour. It does go darker down here. And then a mid-brown for the tail. Okay, so that's my basic bird shape. Again, my camera has up to the saturation of it anyway, but it's kind of accurate. Again, I will neaten things up with my pencils, but that's okay for the basic shape, I'd say. It's a little bit more shadowed like here, but I'm not too worried because I rely on my pencil layer so much. I can just add that in later, so like I'm never really concerned if it's looking a bit pants at this point, because I know that I have to trust the process. And that was something that I had to learn quite quickly, because when I first started doing mixed media, I wanted to abandon everything really quickly, because my first layer always looked a bit pants. And if I'd done that, then half the things, more than that, most of the things that I create would never see the light of day because I've never finished it. Because that first layer that I put down, I'm not happy with. But it's so amazing how much of a difference it makes. So if something's looking rubbish, keep going. Because I honestly find with mixed media, it makes the world of difference. And yeah, I think was the biggest thing that I learned, was to trust the process. And yeah, adding on my pencils layer is like such a big part of my art style now, and makes a big difference to like those first few layers. So I'm gonna put in the beak and a rough position for the eye. Again, not sure if that's right. It's got a bit of a solid stop there, but I think with the pencils I can fix that. So for now, I'm going to put in the base shapes for this pole he's sat on. We've got just over 18 minutes left. So I'm going to continue putting on my block shapes with the background elements as well, which I'm going to do with like some greens. So at the moment, to me this isn't looking great, but I'm going to trust it and hope that my pencils and my near color layer will bring this to life a little bit more and kind of match a little bit more to how I have it or how I want it to be in my head. So when I add on my pencils here, that will help because this is similar sort of rounds because I'm using the same paint that I've got on the palette to the bird. So when I add on my pencil lines, that will help distinguish that a little bit more. And then I'm going to come back in with my bigger brush and start putting in some of these yellower leaves over here behind him. Just using what I've already got on my palette. I'm not trying to get every single leaf shape there, but I want it to look like there are leaves behind him. I will add on, yeah, I will take a picture of this after because the green is coming out a little bit more ochre-y than it is on my page, so I'll post proper pictures on my Instagram grid, probably tomorrow or Friday, but I'll post some pictures once this live stream is finished on my Instagram stories, so that hopefully that will give a more accurate representation of the colours. So just basic block colours here and texture. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So in the picture there's another post here, but I'm just going to ignore that and just add in my green. So now I've got to decide what colour to do the background. I think I'll bring up the green a little bit more. So this is where I'm kind of just going to make it up rather than follow the reference. And then maybe I'll do a blue. So let me use my clean water and a different brush. And I'm going to do a blue. There was quite a lot of lovely shades in the background, but I'm going to go simple with my blue. It might make it a little bit twee. And so far I'm not loving how this is looking, but we're gonna see how it turns out. So again, I'm gonna try and add some texture up here for like suggestions of clouds and a little bit of interest, so it's not just one solid blue. I mean, I could even add in a bit of pink actually if I wanted to kind of look similar and tie in with the image on the left. I think that would be quite nice. So like this is what I'm talking about when I say I kind of let it decide for me and that I never come in with a plan, because I'll just think of stuff when I'm going, and if I did have that plan then maybe I wouldn't, if I had a plan I wouldn't necessarily listen to those ideas, but because I didn't come in with a plan I've decided, oh, that's a good idea, I'm going to do that, and not stick to whatever I thought I was going to do. So I'm going to add in some of this pink. So it's kind of as if this is seeing the same sunset as this lighthouse. I'm going to have to come in with the pencil here because I'm kind of losing the definition of his belly. So I'll rely on my pencil for that. Sketches and Scrub says that they think it's looking really great, so many nice colours, love that it's loose and you go with the flow. Yeah, I find that's just the best way to do, and honestly in real life I'm not like that. So it's nice to be able to do it with my art, and hopefully at some point that will follow into life and I can go with the flow in real life as well, just by practicing and doing what I'm doing with my art. That's the hope, that's the hope. Okay, so that is my base layer down. It's a little bit wetter than, like, I've gone a little bit like I've used more water in this one than I did with this one, and sometimes that's just because I'm a little bit less confident. I'm way more confident with landscapes than I am with animals, but I'm just going to let that dry for now. Contrast real life, yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is definitely more watery. You can see here the thicker gouache compared to here. Maybe I'll add in some of that's because the gouache had dried a little bit on my palette. Let's just add in some more here. I can just keep adding to this. So like if you don't like something, just add in more layers of paint. I think a lot of us worry that we don't start because we think we'll do something wrong. But with paint you can always paint over it, so it really doesn't matter too much. We can always fix it with like colored pencils or adding in other mediums. So I'm gonna stop there. I think this is mostly dry, so I'm gonna start adding on some of my details, and hopefully this will completely transform. Sketches and Scrubs is the same. Work life operating is a complete contrast to art. Well, the two keep me balanced. Oh yeah, that makes sense though. That's really cool that like you've got that difference, because work has to be so ordered, and then art you can just go with it. Okay, so timing wise we've got 11 minutes left. So again I've gone, that's quite similar to this one where I did sort of 20 with the background paint layer and then 10 with the pencils. So similar with this one. I always think that I'll work quicker than I actually do on these live streams. But I'm going to start adding in my pencils. So let me move this away now that we're done with the paint. But we can always bring it back in if we need to. I'm never like, oh that's done and I put it away for good. Like if I want to add in more gouache, then I'll just bring it back. But for now, a lot of this is still wet. I really need to just focus on the bird because he is driest. He's the driest part of my piece. So I've got my pot of pencils. I'm going to pick some browns, some softer pinks, and we'll see how we go from there. So some of these are direct drawing, some of these are luminance. So this is where I really want to add some life into this little bird. I also want a grey. Sketches and Scrubs is a lot slower on live streams. It's a lot of multitasking, talking, reading, painting, tech. Yes, definitely. And I think I always forget that. And so I think it's good that I do longer timers because otherwise I think I'd be too frantic. So I'm just going to use the pencils and lots of little like marks. I'm using lots of short strokes because that's the texture I can see on this bird. And then here, this is where I'll start putting in some more confident lines, just to create some of those textures from the feathers. And I'll start putting in those stripes. Just learning how to work with gouache. I see that yours is more watery. I tend to apply too thick and then have to wait for a while before I start with pencil. Yeah, that's how I started with it as well, and I found that I prefer like the watery effect a little bit more. But I think that's just like with practice that I've kind of worked out the consistency. But we can always go past the timer. So like if you need longer for your paint to dry, then we'll still count that in the timer. Or you can spend a lot longer. I probably will spend longer, so I'm going to stay working on this after the timer's probably gone off, depending on how far we go. I'm definitely not strict with the timers on the live stream. But we'll see how we go. So I'm just using this Castle Earth luminance pencil for some of these darker. And again, it's not completely accurate, but it's enough. So like to me, it's still communicating what I need it to. So it doesn't have to be super accurate as long as I think it's showing that it's a bird. So I'm coming in with my dark luminance. Again, I use this shade so much just because it is so dark and it works with so many different colours. I think this line was a mistake. Sometimes I'll come in with Neocolor just to try and fix anything, because it goes over everything, but you can't then go over it again. So that's something to be aware of. Let's do the tail. Okay, we've got 6 minutes 15 left. So I think that we will extend our timer a little bit because I'm not quite where I want it to be yet. We'll see how we go with the next 6 minutes though. So let's add on some more texture here. So there's quite a lot of grey tones. I'm going to darken up his little legs so that they're not quite as lost. Okay, now I think adding in the eye will help a lot. Putting in the eyes for the birds I find is the hardest part, because to like get it in the right placement. So let's give this a go, but if it goes wrong, I'll just put some gouache over it and we'll try again. So let's go with our dark luminance. It kind of didn't look where I should put that, but that's okay. Nice little round eye. It's not quite as round in the reference, but I think it makes them look a little bit more friendly when they're rounder. And then the beak. Okay, I don't know how this is turning out. I don't think this is quite how I imagined it. But let's keep going. I think he's getting there. I think he just needs a little bit more work. So we're not going to give up on him yet. I think maybe I've gone too far there. TJ, love how you're building the value and details. The bird is really popping off the page now. Oh, thanks TJ. Eldolan, do you ever go back and add more gouache? By the way, I text work and told them I would be late. Katie Moody is painting a bird. I will not miss it. Will they accept that excuse? Because I know that my old work certainly wouldn't have. I sometimes do. If I want to, this is still not quite dry. If I want to darken an area, or if I want to cover a mistake, then absolutely I'll come back in with my gouache. I'm certainly not one that's like, I've done that now, I've missed my boat, let's move on. I absolutely will come in with gouache if I need to. So yeah, sometimes I do. It depends on what I want to add. Generally I'll find that if I want something to be more opaque, then gouache is the best thing for it, so I'll reach for that. So I'm going to start adding in some texture back here. We have got 3 minutes left, so I think that we will extend our timer a little bit. But we'll see how we go. This needs some work, so let's add on some details here. I'm going to again simplify this. Christian's already happy that your bird looks like a bird. Yay! Oh, I'm happy to hear it. I'm glad that it's going well. So I'm definitely doing a lot less details than it actually has. But again, it looks like a post, which is what I wanted it to look like, so that's fine by me. Can definitely add on some more texture, I think. And then we'll stylize this post a little bit. Very simple there. And now what I really want to do is darken up some of this green at the bottom. So where's my dark green pencil? I can't find it. I feel like I've been quite neat on this live stream actually, and I still can't find my supplies. So we'll use what I have got. I'm just trying to add on some more texture back here. I think that a suggestion of little grass here. That's not my dark indigo, that's a brown. I just want to darken this bit a bit more. I think that will help. Oh, here's my little green. Here we go. So we'll blend that up a little bit more. And we're into our last minute, but I am going to extend it and maybe give us like 35 minutes for this one. Sorry if you need to go to work. I'm going to extend it a little bit more, just so that I can get this to a point where I'm a bit more happier with it. It's definitely getting there, and that's what I mean about like trusting the process and keeping going instead of just giving up. Like, he's definitely got a little bit more of a personality now. Let's add on a bit more up here. Okay, so that was our original 30 minutes. I'm just going to add on another 5 minutes so we can finish him off. I don't know how yours is going, maybe you finished already, which is amazing, and you don't need this extra time, but for me, I'm feeling a little bit like I need a little bit more. So I mean, I was going to do even less time on this, and like with those timers it would be a completely different look, and sometimes that works really nicely, but where I spent 30 minutes, I just think having that extra 5 minutes will make more of a difference. So like, this is where we could be in a danger of overworking, but I kind of know what I want to add on to bring it into line, so it's not like I'm just sort of adding things for no reason. I know I want to add more texture into the sky and over here. And just, I think I want the sky to look a little bit less wishy-washy. I think it was looking like I didn't know what to do with it, which I didn't. But I want it to look a little bit more confident. So I like to add my scribbles, just to sort of mimic clouds. And then use the pencil in this way to add on texture. Almost there with it. It's not how I imagined it would be when I picked this reference, but like I said, there's never really any plan, so it's always a bit of a surprise what happens, especially on a live stream. Sandy says, somehow you missed the beginning of these two, we'll have to go back and watch. Yeah, there will be a replay. It will go up as soon as this live ends, so you should be able to catch the beginning. But it's cool that you can see the end, so you can see how it starts and then how it finishes. Because I had no idea what this was going to look like. I don't use the seniority card at work often, but just in case, you could say Lisa really needed to be here because her birds don't look as good as mine. I'll replay them. I'll replay for them. I love that, Lisa. Okay. So I think defining that sky works a little bit more. It was just looking a little bit unfinished and it didn't really match the bird, like the amount of detail I put over here and in the other places in the page. So I think just adding that texture finishes it off a bit more. We've got a minute 45 left, so yeah, it just felt like it wasn't quite finished because I'd done the sky to a different level as the rest. So let's come in with my near colours. I want to smooth out some of that texture. I don't know if the pink works. I don't know if it would have been better all blue, but I quite like how it ties in with the other page as well. I don't know what you think. It feels more like a connected spread if I use the same colours, so I think that works. Okay, you're loving the pink. Okay, good. Forzana is amazed the right amount of texture you always put into my work. I always have problems with texture obsession. I added too much. Oh, I don't know. Can you do too much? I feel like texture is something that I always want, and I feel like I always want to add more. And it's nice to hear that you think I've got the right balance though. Okay, so we are into our last 27 seconds. Gosh, that extra 5 minutes went super quick. This is where I've got to be careful not to add on too much. This is my little sky blue near colour. Let's add this on. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay, there we go then. That's the. I'm not. Okay, I said I'm not going to add more, but I'm going to add on a little bit more. Just to highlight some of these areas. And then I swear that we're done. I won't extend it anymore and you can all go to work and not be late because of me. I'm just finishing off little tweaks. Okay. Okay, I think I'm going to call it there. Sometimes those little additions aren't always the right call, and then I'm like, why did I add that at the end? But I think that's okay. That bird definitely came together in the end. Again, it's not quite how I thought it would be, but it looks like a bird, and so that's kind of a success in my eyes. I need to step away. I don't think I'm going to add anything else to it. I think that's it. So let me take away our reference. Like I said, if you would like to spend longer on these, they are linked down below in the description box. Both are fab, Katie. Oh, thank you. Okay, let's tidy up my desk a little bit. You can see my dirty water here. Let's move that away so I don't accidentally drink it. Oh, thanks for the hearts, Kenna. So there we go. That's how it turned out. I think it's a really nice spread. It feels very summery, doesn't it? It feels very warm and cozy. So that's always a nice feeling to have with art. I think the more I look at it, the more I like it. I think when you're in it and you're creating, we can be really harsh on ourselves, but when you step back, and even if you give it like a day or two or even just an hour and come back to it, you'll realize the good about it. So if you're not happy with what you've created, give it a minute and come back to it, because I do think that when we're in it, we can be really harsh on ourselves. So let's have a look. Christiane, you learn so much every live stream. Oh, thanks, Christiane. And you finished your inking, yay! And my paintings are cute, thank you. I'm glad you finished your inking, that's great. So a huge thank you for joining me live, and for those watching on the replay. If you are creating along and have used these references, I would absolutely love to see your artwork. Please do tag me on Instagram, and like you can tag me in the post or on your stories, and I'd love to see what you create. I always really love seeing everybody's style with these things. I usually do these over on Patreon, so if you are interested in more of these, then I'd love you to join me over there. But this is basically just a big thank you for being part of my community, for helping me reach these milestones. It really does mean a lot, and it makes such a big difference to me as a full-time artist, so thank you so much for all being here and hanging out with me. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will be back on Sunday with a YouTube video, which is going to be a little art haul and then a painting process. Oh, I'm just going to answer this question from Lisa. When using the Neocolor 2, do you mainly use them dry? I've had mine for years but have always used them wet. I use the Neocolor 1 in some of my watercolor paintings, but I prefer the Neocolor 2s. I would say 90% of the time, yes, I use them dry. I do have a video on YouTube. It's actually my most viewed video. It's called How to Use Neocolors, and it shows my process for using them dry for like a full piece. So you might find that interesting. But generally I always use them dry, but I actually prefer the Neocolor 2s to the Neocolor 1s, even though I use them in the same way. I feel like the Neocolor 2s are a little bit softer. Okay, cool. Lisa, if you have any more questions, please do just pop me a message on Instagram. That goes for anyone, I'm always happy to chat. So have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll speak to you all really soon. Thank you so much for being here. See you later.